Hey writers, it's Megan and all writers welcome. We are getting ready for the live training, how to write a book description that sells your book. I'm really excited about today's training. I think it's going to really help you think about book descriptions in a totally new way. So excited for you to be joining us. Ella is working the magic behind the scenes. She is going to be sharing this broadcast to the All Writers Welcome Facebook page, the Book Launch Like a Boss Facebook group, the All Writers Welcome Facebook group. Woohoo! And there she is. Awesome! So once again, we are here for the live training for Write a Book Description that Sells Your Book. I'm Megan from All Writers Welcome. Ella from All Writers Welcome is also here on the video call. She is going to be keeping track of all the tech today, and she's also going to be keeping track of everybody's questions. This is going to be live, interactive. So we really want you guys to ask the questions you have about book descriptions and wait just a little minute, give people a chance to get on the call, give everybody a chance to get their great book description questions going. Hey, Trish. Ooh, awesome. All right, I just got the green light. We are live in all of our groups. So once again, hey, everybody, I'm Megan of All Writers Welcome. And today's live masterclass is how to write a book description that sells your book. Sounds pretty good, right? Like, oh, I don't have to sell my book as hard because my book description is working for me. Sounds pretty good. All right. The lovely Ella, my co-creator in crime, is behind the scenes. She's ready to capture your questions because I am going to be delivering a ton of content on this training. I am not going to be stopping during the training to answer individual questions, but following the live training, we are doing a live Q&A exclusively in the Blab group and the Book Launch Like a Boss Facebook group. And so Ella is going to be capturing your questions as we're going through this training, and then I'm going to be answering them all following this training in the Blab group. Ella will be posting a link to join the Book Launch Like a Boss Facebook group if you are not already there. So make sure you look for that link in the comments. And let's jump into how to write a book description that sells your book. Oh, yeah. All right. I want to hear from you all. Let me know about your book. What's the name of your main character? Let me get to know your books and your stories a little bit. Throw it in the comments. What is the full name of your main character? Let me see. Who are some of the people who are going to be going into these book descriptions that are selling? Ooh, let me see. Who you writing about? Hey, Shauna. Hey, Carrie. Oh, so many friendly faces. Hey, Lori. Oh, my goodness. I love it. And I love meeting all you new people. Ooh, Luke Taylor. Ooh, an intriguing main character name. Guys, keep coming. Throw me your main character names. Let's see them. I just love getting to know people, how you choose names. Tyler Francis Logan, Sibba Hallowtide. Oh, hey, Cassidy. That's awesome. The people who are in the All Writers Welcome Academy, I can recognize them by their main character names. Caden Johnston. Oh, the deadly, the sexy. Gavina McGregor. Megan Rose Maxwell. Ooh, I can get behind that name. All right, awesome. So all of you with your main characters that you know so well, the big challenge of writing your book description is you want your audience to know those people so well, right? But it's hard to do in just a few words. So that's what today's training is all about. We want you to be able to write a book description that sells your book in a teeny little blurb. Readers should be able to know, I want to know more about that main character, about Gavina McGregor, just from what I read there. So this topic has a lot in it, and it's something that Ella and I are going totally in depth on in the Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp, which launches the second week of January. And today we're going to just like, here's all the information and shove it into your brain. But in the bootcamp, we unpack this a bit and we walk you through how to do it for your book and for your genre, how to tweak your book description so it's exactly what you need to sell your book. Because ultimately, your book description is a commercial for your book. And that's why we actually devote a whole strategy and action session in the Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp to this topic. But for today, we're going to give you the big chunk of info. All right, you guys ready to get started? So I'm curious if you've had this experience. Somebody asks you what your book's about, And then you like launch into this detailed description of all the cool elements in your story, because all those details are super important, right? You want to say everything that's in your story. So does this happen to you? Somebody asks what your book's about and you like lay it on. You're like, here's everything that happens. Anybody else run into that? Because I do. I totally have that problem. And this problem came up for me in an interesting way this year because I co-authored a nonfiction book. And you think people get glazed over eyes when you tell them like absolutely everything that's in a fiction book. Oh my gosh, when you start telling people like chapter by chapter what is in a nonfiction textbook, it's like super eye glaze over. So I definitely relate to this experience of I'm so excited. I know that's cool information, but trying to tell everybody everything that's in my book, it doesn't get the reaction I want. So have you guys had that experience? Scale of 1 to 10, how much have you struggled trying to put everything that you know is so cool in your book into this teeny tiny little blurb? 1 to 10, who's had a hard time with writing this much about a book that is this much? Anybody else struggle with that? Oh, I need them to know everything so they love the story. Yes, exactly. Oh, Shauna says a 10. Yeah, we know how awesome our books are, and that's what we're trying to get across to people. And that's, of course, where we lose them. So we want to change that. We want to actually completely switch it up. So the reason that happens is when people are asking what the book is about, or when they're looking for a book description, they don't really want to know what the book is about. They want to know whether they would be interested in reading the book. Okay, so for my own experience with the nonfiction book, the problem was I was telling people what it was all about and what the content was instead of why they would love my book. And in today's training, I'm going to show you how to write a book description that sells your book by getting readers excited and letting them see why they would love your book instead of you trying to cram your whole book into a description. In other words, I'm going to show you how to write a commercial for your book. Here are the 3 main components that I'm going to be covering today. The first is writing a hook that grabs your readers right in the first sentence. Then I'm going to walk you through summarizing the kind of story you're telling instead of the story. And finally, I'm going to walk you through leaving readers with a cliffhanger. Da, 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 da. So they're dying to know how things turn out. And the only way for them to do that is to click that buy button. Does that sound good to you guys? You ready to hear about hooks, describing the kind of story, and then getting a good cliffhanger? Oh yeah. Give me a hell yes. Give me an emoji. Give me something I can dance to. All right, awesome. And also I want to point out, as we're going through, Ella is writing summaries of kind of some main points. So if you are tuning in and you missed some of the beginning or something went by fast, you can scroll through the comments and Ella is typing furiously and getting some of the content in the chat as well. All right. And she's also taking note of your questions. Remember to put them in the chat, and we're going to be answering questions on a live Q&A following this exclusively in the Book Launch Like a Boss Facebook group. Okay, let's jump right in. How to hook the reader. Your book description has to start with a hook. If that's not a familiar term, this is something we use in writing all the time. If you're writing a blog post, if you're writing an article, it's like that very first thing, it grabs your reader right away. Because once you have your reader's attention, you can give them more detail. But if you don't have their attention, it's just like blah, 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 and they're getting nothing. This is like me being in the car with my husband, and he's like staring out the window, and I'm like, oh, what should we do this weekend? And what should we eat for dinner? Nothing, all right? It's just like, there's nothing going in, all right? By the way, I do have a strategy for this, and it's relevant to this training. I'll just yell out a naughty word, and he'll like, what? Huh? And he'll go, oh, what should we do this weekend? Totally gets his attention every time. But let me give you a less rude example of a hook. So this is the way I changed the way I was describing my nonfiction book to people. When somebody asks me about it now, I say, it's interactive STEM curriculum where students design and build underwater habitats. Okay, that probably still sounds really boring to you if you're not a parent or you're not an educator. But if you are a parent or an educator, you hear the word STEM and you're like, oh, you have my attention, because STEM is super big right now. And what I'm doing with that is just using a simple idea based on human psychology. So I want to walk you through kind of these like how to game people's minds quick tricks. Because there really are a few tried and true ways to get people's attention simply based on the way the human mind works. And I'm going to cover just 4. I'm sure there are so many more, but these are 4 that you can totally use for writing about your book. They are, number 1, something familiar. When we hear something familiar, we're like, oh, I've heard of that before. I want to pay attention. When we hear something totally brand new and weird and strange, we also pay attention. When we hear about something dangerous, there's a risk, there's a change, we super pay attention. And if we hear about romance, love, sex, this is the strategy I'm using when I say a naughty word to get my husband's attention, our ears perk up, okay? So when I started telling people that my book was STEM curriculum, they heard something familiar. And they also heard something that they should be seeking after. So then I was able to just get them on board, and I could tell them about the rest of them. So let's apply this to your book. How can you use these human responses to the familiar, the novel, the dangerous, and the romantic in your hook? Well, let's walk through. So for a hook, a familiar kind of grab might be a scenario people relate to, either positive or negative, but something that we all recognize, right? Like a character who's getting married or having a baby, or there was a death in the family. We're like, oh, I totally relate to that. So that's, a hook with getting people hooked with something familiar. What about getting people hooked with something novel or brand new? Well, you could throw us into a totally new and fascinating setting, or a familiar setting that's gone kind of screwy, gone kind of weird. And for all you fantasy writers out there, this is starting out with something that shows us how different and unique your world is. Great hook. How could you use a hook that gives us a sense of danger? Well, there might be a confrontation, or a character about to take a risk, or a world on the brink of great change, or a world on the brink of destruction. And if we get that in the first sentence, we're definitely hooked. What about that romance, love, sex angle? Well, you can use this definitely for all genres of romance, and even some crime or drama and thriller books. And I want you to imagine, we all know sex sells. We all know sex is in commercials. But think of like a thriller, and there's the dead body on the cover, but the dead body happens to be a scantily clad woman, right? And it's like, ooh, well, you have my attention. So can you guys start to see that just with simple human psychology, you get people's attention? Show them something familiar, show them something brand new, show them something a little bit dangerous, or show them something a little bit sexy. Oh yeah. And we'll go through what that looks like in more detail. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the hook. It sells your book because it gets people's attention. And remember, they won't read the rest of the description if you don't have their attention in the first sentence. So I want you to let go of that feeling that your first sentence has to be this backstory, or it has to be introduction, or it has to tell people how everything started. That's not your first sentence's job. Your first sentence's job is to make somebody go, oh, I'm here, I'm reading, I want to read more. Because remember, if you're thinking about your book description on Amazon, that customer really does have to click read more in order to see the whole description. So you've got to have that hook. And this is, again, something we go really deep into in the Blab Bootcamp. And we're launching Blab Bootcamp on January 11th. We're so excited because it's going to be a really intensive push where we walk you guys through taking action. And we're going to go over your hook frontwards, backwards, sideways, until it's short, sweet, and irresistible to your readers. All right, it's time for you to take some action. You guys ready to take action? Here's your assignment. I want you to head over to Amazon and find 5 books in your genre and read their descriptions. And I want you to notice the first sentence or two. Is there a hook there that grabs your attention? And if so, does it use one of these strategies? Why is it grabbing your attention? Reading other people's book descriptions is by far one of the best ways to make your own description better. So go take some action. Go start reading book descriptions and ask, what's hooking me? What is happening in the first or second sentence that's like, oh, I'm here. You have me. You had me at hello, right? Okay. Do you have any questions so far? Make sure to add them to the comments so Ella can keep track of them and so I can answer them in the Blab Facebook group following this training. All right, let's now go a little bit deeper into those 4 things I walked you through, those 4 ways of getting people's attention: novelty, danger, sex, and familiarity. And let's see what those concepts actually look like in book description hooks. Now, I went and I grabbed some real hooks from real book descriptions so you guys can hear what these sound like. All right, let's start with the novelty or surprise. This is from a sci-fi book. For the millions who log in every day, Warcross isn't just a game, it's a way of life. Okay, that's from, as I said, a sci-fi, and it's like, okay, I'm in a completely different world. So I'm immediately there. It's a little muted, you know, it's not like, oh, everything's crazy, but okay, I know I'm in a different world. Here is a novelty surprise from a YA book that might sound familiar. In the ruins of a place once known as North America lies the nation of Panem, a shining capital surrounded by 12 outlying districts. And I'm like, ooh, I'm someplace that should be familiar, but it's completely different. All right, so both of those are kind of low key, right? Neither one is smacking you over the head, but for people who are really into worlds, right? For sci-fi and dystopia readers, like, woo, I want to know more. So I hope you also see from that this is not about shock, right? Your book description doesn't have to start with something that makes people gasp in surprise. It just has to hit the right note for your readers. And this is, you know, why we go into it so deep in the boot camp, because it's really about your genre and your story. All right, here's some more examples. Listen to what a danger or change kind of hook sounds like. This is for a mystery. The silhouette stood at the edge of the woods like a spider watching a fly enter its carefully crafted web. Ooh. If you're a mystery reader, you are totally drawn in by that, right? There's definitely a character who is in danger. Something is going on. We want to know more. But here is a danger/change from a cozy mystery. New Life Church should be a place of rest and healing. So why would anyone dump a body in their orchard? What? Right? Like, we know there's something interesting going on there. From a legal thriller. The beheaded body of an ambassador's son is dumped on the curb in front of his father's embassy, just blocks from the White House. There's definitely some danger there, right? And can you see that each one of these matches its genre? You know, the cozy mystery one doesn't creep you out in the same way that the beheaded body, it's not as graphic, I should say, but you still know there's a danger there. Let's see how the sex romance angle works. Okay, so here's from an actual romance, just a traditional romance. Theo McLeod wasn't supposed to be the one. There's nothing graphic in it, right? It's just about finding love. And we know that reading a romance, there's going to be a romantic element, but for somebody not to be the one, we're like, ooh, romance with a twist. And here's from a romantic comedy, the very first sentence. Dressing up as a sexy elf to sing Christmas hits isn't exactly the glittering Broadway career I had planned. By the way, there's a growing trend right now for all you romance writers of doing the book description in first person, which is kind of cool. So that's something that we would definitely go over with you in Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp. Is it right for me to do in first person? But these are setting up. There's a little bit of, interest from the romance. Okay, I'm going to end with some hooks that use that familiar with a twist, where it gets our attention because we recognize the situation and then it puts a twist on it. So we're drawn in even further. Here's from a paranormal romance. Tessa was a runaway as a teenager. And we're like, oh, okay, I know what that story is going to be like. But then listen to how it continues. Her parents put her in an institution when she told them she could read minds. Dun, dun, dun. So we're hooked because it's something familiar. We're like, okay, teenage runaway. I know what that story is going to unfold like. And then we get twist. Here's another one where we think, oh, familiar situation, but not. It's from a thriller. Newlyweds Brett and Emily Larson have just moved into a new home deep in the countryside and are overjoyed when Emily finds out she's pregnant. Like, new couple, pregnant. But here's the twist. Then they discover human bones in their garden. Da, 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 da. All right. So you guys, is this making sense? Let me know in the comments, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you now dying to create a great hook for your book? Are you excited? Let me know from 1 to 10, or give me an emoji. Are you like, oh yeah, I need a good hook. I want to go out and I want to get the hook that grabs readers. And you're thinking about, maybe I could use something familiar with a twist, or some sex, or some danger, or showing people a completely brand new world they've never seen before. Okay. Awesome. So the hook, you can see, you know, at the first part of your description, it's just a sentence or two, but super, super important. So let's move on to the middle part of your book description, where we're kind of making a sandwich. You had the hook at the beginning. Now we're in the juicy stuff in the middle. And this is going to totally change your thinking about your book description, because what you need to do is summarize the kind of story you're telling, not the story itself. A lot goes on in the plot of your story, right? You probably have a lot of important characters. You have really cool plot developments. You've got subplots. You've got all this cool stuff happening. So if you attempt to summarize the plot, what's going to happen is you're going to open a can of worms, right? You're going to like open that, and then once one worm gets out, they're all getting out. There's no getting them back in the can, because what ends up happening is, to understand plot point A, the reader has to hear plot points B, C, D, E, right? And all about characters X, Y, and Z. And that's how you end up getting sucked in and trapped and summarizing the story. And the thing is, the more, you know, the can of worms is that the more you tell us, the more you have to tell us. Your book description just keeps growing longer and longer. And remember, what you're trying to create here is a commercial. You don't want it to just keep getting longer and longer and longer. You don't want to write an essay about your book. Readers read the same kinds of stories over and over again. It's not that we only read one genre, right? But once I find a genre I like, I keep reading there because I want to have that same experience. I keep going back and watching more Baz Luhrmann movies because I want the experience of a romance between two quirky characters again and again and again. I'm like, nope, it's not enough just once. Give me that feeling again and again, right? So that's how your readers are. And what they're doing when they're reading book descriptions is they're like, are you that good experience? Are you that good experience? It's like the little, are you my mother, right? That we're going around. Now, we don't necessarily know we're doing that. We're reading the book descriptions and we're like, oh, what's this book about? But what we're really doing is asking, is this book going to give me that wonderful experience I had where I was, you know, so terrified by this thriller, I stayed up all night and I slept with the lights on? Or is it going to give me that experience where those characters, their love story was so beautiful and my heart is still yearning for it? Or is it going to give me that experience where the young protagonist like finally found herself and she grew stronger, right? We're looking for that experience. So we want to signal readers that, yes, this is the experience you're looking for. These are the droids you're looking for, right? So, you know, we want to be able to signal them like, yes, this is a lighthearted romance where the main character looks for true love. Or yes, this is a thrilling crime drama where the cop tries to find the killer. Or yes, this is a fantastic adventure where the knight has to slay the dragon. So that means you only have to tell us a few main points so that we can match up our flavor preferences as readers to your book. And here are the 3 elements. You guys can tell I love working in threes. You've got 3 ingredients for your book description, and then in the middle, the main part, there's really just these 3 key things you need. And that is the world, because there's a big divide in worlds. You know, am I in present day reality? Am I in a historic era? Am I in a magical realm? Am I in a bleak dystopian future? Each of those imparts a different flavor, and it makes a big difference to readers. So you want to let them know right away what world they're in. The second key piece you want to let them know is what the conflict or the objective centers around, because this is going to tell us the kinds of characters we're going to get. It's going to tell us whether we're likely to relate to their journeys. You know, am I reading about hardened detectives? Am I reading about prepubescent wizards? Am I reading about depressed housewives? Am I reading about fun-loving, flirtatious baristas? So I have to be able to tell that from the book description. What does the conflict center around? What are people trying to get? The last key thing that readers are dying to know is the stakes. What is at stake in this story? You know, what are characters going to have to do to get what they want? Because that will tell us the kinds of scenes we're going to get. Am I going to be reading a lot of fight scenes? Am I going to be reading about detective work? Am I going to be reading about brunch with girlfriends? Hot sex? You know, like all of this, whether the stakes are high or low or what people are fighting for is going to dictate what kinds of scenes I, as a reader, get to read. And you can tell, you know, that's what gives the flavor, the world, the conflict or objective, and the stakes. So in Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp, we're going to go into great detail about how to summarize those elements, the world, the conflict, and the stakes of your story, rather than summarizing your plot. And what we're going to help you do is distill the main essence of your book and translate that into the flavor that your readers will recognize. And some people were asking in the questions leading up to this training about keywords. Yes, there are certain words that will trigger certain thoughts in readers. And it's not rocket science, you know, it's just kind of simply paying attention to what other authors in your genre use. And it's the thing you can totally use to your advantage when you write your description. Once you figure out the flavor profile, then you can figure out the words that deliver it to your customers, and that's what we'll help you do in the bootcamp. All right, so you guys ready to take some action? I want you to, you don't have to do it right this second, you can do it after the training, get on Amazon and search for a book that you know and love. You don't have to have bought it on Amazon, like a book that you've read a bunch of times, a book you know, in and out. And I want you to read the description of that book. And then I want you to count the number of important characters who don't even appear in the description. And I want you to think of all the plot points that aren't listed. And so that you can really get it, right? So, you know, you'll still get the flavor of the book without the details. And I hope you'll really start seeing that the description is nothing but a commercial. It is not a summary of the plot. And it's a really cool exercise to do. If you take a book that you know, and you're like, oh, there's not even any mention of Joe here, right? It's like he didn't even make the description, even though he's so important. All right, Chell, do you have questions so far about summarizing the flavor of your book? Make sure to add them to the comments, and Ella is capturing those, and I'm going to be answering them in live Q&A following this training over in Book Launch Like a Boss, the Facebook group, the lab for short. Okay, so let's check out the formula for the main body of your book description, right? Those 3 points, the world, the objectives, the stakes. And talk a little bit about what you'll actually write here. So to talk about the world, you know, if you might have introduced or hinted at the world in your book, and then you can expand on it here. And I wanted to share with you, here's, I gave you the hook from the Hunger Games when we talked about hooks. And here's how it continues. Long ago, the districts waged war on the capital and were defeated. As part of the surrender terms, each district agreed to send one boy and one girl to appear in an annual televised event called the Hunger Games, a fight to the death on live TV. So it's only 2 sentences. It's enough to tell us we're in a dystopian future, and it also starts to give us some flavor. This is going to be a serious book, most likely, since it involves fighting to the death. Okay. Then the next part of the description takes us into the conflict and the objective. Here's how it continues. 16-year-old Katniss Everdeen, who lives alone with her mother and younger sister, regards it as a death sentence when she is forced to represent her district in the games. It's only 1 sentence. And if you've read the book or you've seen the movies, you know this is kind of a fudge, right? In order to make it short and sweet, it says she's forced to fight. Well, she's not really, right? Her sister is forced and she volunteers. If we had tried to get that into the description, it would have been chaos. So it's, you know, it's a little bit of a skipping to the what happened, the conclusion, and leaving out some of the details that do turn out to be important, just so we can get what the conflict is. In addition, it gives us a little bit more about the protagonist. We know this is going to be a book about a tough female teen protagonist who's probably pretty independent. It says she lives alone with her mom and younger sister. And then finally, we get the stakes. Here's how this book description ends. The terrain, rules, and level of audience participation may change, but one thing is constant: kill or be killed. So this is a matter of life and death. And I want you to think about your own preferences, the flavor you like as a reader. Can you already tell whether or not you'd like this book? Because here's what we just learned from the world, the conflict, and the stakes. It's dystopian future. It's a realistic setting. There's no magic. It's got some political or social commentary, right? Because it mentioned fighting to the death on live TV. It has a strong female protagonist, a teen protagonist, and life or death stakes. That's a pretty good list for you as a reader to use to determine if this is a flavor you would like. All right, so let me know with an emoji or make a comment. Is this making sense? Do you see how you can signal readers that your story is for them with just a few sentences and without summarizing all of the important plot points? Give me an emoji. Let me know on a scale of 1 to 10. Can you see the possibility of summarizing your book's flavor as opposed to your book's plot points? Woohoo! Okay, awesome. Seeing some floating emoji. It makes me feel like I'm underwater. Underwater. All right, awesome. And it's so much fun then to just give the flavor of your book. All right, so let us now look at the third part of your book description. We're making a sandwich. You had your hook, you had the middle, the filling that's most of the writing, the world, the objective, and the stakes. And now it is time for that bottom piece of bread in your sandwich, which is so, so important. And it is your cliffhanger. You have to stretch the tension to its breaking point with a cliffhanger. So the end of your book description, aka commercial, readers should be revved up to click buy. And if you do this right, you'll leave them with some kind of urgent question that they want answered. You don't have to literally ask a question, although that's definitely one of the strategies, but your reader should have a question in her mind about what's going to happen next, right? So of course, the literal cliffhanger is, back in the old days, the serials they would show before movies, the characters would end up literally hanging off a cliff, right? Like, will the hero make it? And of course, you had to come back next week to watch the next installment. But you're doing the same thing. You're adding some urgency so that when somebody reads through and goes, oh yeah, this book is definitely my flavor, there's a reason to click buy right now, not later, right now. So that's what we want to do with your cliffhanger. So here's what's cool though. If you're thinking, oh man, but I'm writing literary fiction and nobody's about to die, totally cool. A good cliffhanger is not necessarily a life or death situation, but it may be, for some genres, it definitely will be. But it's just a situation that we want to know the resolution to. So here are some great ways to do that. I'm going to run through a bunch. You might show time is running out. Like, you make it urgent for your reader by showing it's urgent for your character, right? Like, things have been progressing and now for some reason, time is running out. And that could be time is running out to find the antidote for the poison, or it could be time is running out to decide if you're going to marry this dude. Another great cliffhanger is throw a wrench into the works. Things are going fine until, right? It's like, oh man, now everything is mucked up and I have to see if it's possible to fix it. You can add a surprise for the main character, whether it's good or bad. Your little description's going along, we know kind of what's at stake, and then all of a sudden, it goes on a harebrained twist. You can give the protagonist some kind of disadvantage. Then we want to know, does she overcome that? You can introduce a mystery. You can show the movement of fate or destiny, right? Like winter is coming, right? If you're a Game of Thrones fan, it's like all things are converging toward this one point. You can show the buildup of circumstances, but then when the main character finds herself in right? So that one is kind of similar to the movement of destiny or fate, but for realistic fiction, right? Everything is just kind of compounding, moving in a certain trend. And of course, you can always end by asking an either or question, right? Will she find the crystal, or will she be trapped in the magic caverns forever? And there are other kinds of questions that are effective too. But those are like just, kind of a handful of all the different possible things you can do. And what you guys may not know about me is that one of my favorite things to do is create writing frames, which are basically paint by numbers. And so it's looking at what's the goal of my sentence. Okay, my sentence is to leave somebody with an urgent question. What are the ways I can do that? And I just go through and I create writing. Try starting with an if, or try starting with a this, or do a, this kind of sentence ending with that. So this is a place where in Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp, if you go, okay, I know I need an urgent question, but I don't know how to create that question, or I don't know how to make my reader feel urgent, I have totally got your back on that. That's super fun for me. That's one of my superpowers, and it's one of my super fun powers as well. All right. So the type of cliffhanger you're going to use is really driven by your genre and your story. And that's another thing that's so key with what we do in the Blab Bootcamp, because we're going to walk you through what would be appropriate for your book. You guys have seen this formula now. We're on the last step of this formula, but you might go, okay, well, what would that look like for my book? What are the kind of keywords that I want to use for my readers to really show them it's the right flavor? So in the Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp that starts January 11th, we are walking you through this. We do what's called strategy plus action sessions. So you're actually going to write your book description in the program and get our feedback and make sure that it's really a compelling commercial for your book. Time for you to take action. You ready? I want you to practice coming up with an either or question for your story. And the way you're going to do this is you're going to think of what's the good outcome? What is your main character trying to make happen? Like, will she get the cute guy to notice her, or will she get eaten by bears? So you want to what's the good thing that your character is hoping will happen? And then what is the negative possibility? What would be the circumstance that comes into play if not? So that's going to be the core of your cliffhanger. And you can decide how intense or how subtle to make it, right? Like mine was not very subtle, or she'll get eaten by bears. But you can make a question that shows they're going to be bad circumstances that aren't life or death, that aren't getting eaten by a bear circumstances, right? So take that action, practice coming up with an either or question, and then play with it. Tone it down, tone it up, get something that you like. Do you guys have questions so far about ending with a cliffhanger? Remember, I want you to add them to the comments. Ella is tracking them, and I'm going to be answering them live in the Book Launch Like a Boss Facebook group following this training. So make sure to get your questions in. All right, now that you know you need to provide a cliffhanger to give a sense of urgency so that somebody is going, yes, now, buy now, I need that now. Or if it's not available, pre-order. I need that as soon as it's humanly possible, right? Let's look at some examples. And again, I have grabbed examples from real books. This is such a great way to learn. Go read the descriptions of books. And this will also hopefully give you a little feeling of relief that even though what you're doing here is based on a formula, there is a lot of wiggle room, because you're going to see book descriptions that range in length from 100 words to 250 or 300 words. You're going to see some that are a single paragraph. You're going to see some that are multiple paragraphs. And you're going to start noticing patterns and trends based on genres and going, oh, okay, that gets my attention. That doesn't get my attention. You'll start noticing what you like, what you don't like. Go read book descriptions. That's the main thing you could do. All right, so here were just a couple that really grabbed my attention. This is from The Maze Runner, and this cliffhanger uses the change in setting strategy. So this is the last paragraph of this short book description. Then a girl arrives, the first girl ever, and the message she delivers is terrifying. Remember, survive, run. Ooh. So there's so much good stuff going on in that cliffhanger. But again, the type of cliffhanger it is a change in the setting. Because up to then, it's been all these dudes who are waking up and they're like, they have no memory. And then a girl arrives. Okay, so simple. It's not a rocket ship. It's just like this really clear change from what's been going on previously. That one also makes great use of short sentences. That's why it has that tense feeling. Here's from Monsters and Angels. And this has like a destiny converging type of flavor to it, plus a question. Here is the cliffhanger for this description. In a realm where the boundary between good and evil is as murky as the Mississippi River, and immortal does not mean invincible, will Sorsha ever risk her shattered heart and love again? Can the magical harmony of the Crescent City give her enough courage to fulfill her eternal destiny? Da, 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 da. And you're like, I don't know, but I want to know, right? Buy now, buy now. And here's a fun one from A Romance My Girlfriend's Perfect Ex-Boyfriend. And this one uses the buildup of circumstance for urgency. But when Adrian finds himself in Slovenia with Sebastian in the room down the hall, he realizes there's serious possibility that he's in danger of losing his job, his mind, and the woman he loves. And that one uses this great strategy, which is listing, to make you feel the pileup of bad things about to happen. So I want to check in with you guys on a scale of 1 to 10. Do you see why having the cliffhanger final thought makes readers want to keep reading? Did these cliffhangers make you want to find out what's going to happen? Let me know. Is this making sense? You got to end with the cliffhanger, give people a sense of urgency. Give me an emoji. Give me your reaction. How much does that make sense? Anne says 10. Yes. And I got it. Yeah. Ooh, Mike says if you can't summarize it, you can't sell it. Yes, and Mike, I would amend that to say if you can't summarize the flavor, you can't sell it, right? Yes, I have to be able to summarize it, but it's not the plot. We want you to summarize the flavor. Ooh, yeah. So people know that's the experience I want. Okay, awesome. I got a woo. All right. I'm so glad you guys are seeing how you can use the book description formula to really create a commercial. And I want to review that formula for you, all right? So we started with the hook. If somebody's not paying attention, it doesn't matter how much you're saying to them. I could tell you personally all the things that have gone in one ear for my husband and out the other. And he's like, why, you never said that? Because I didn't have his attention, all right? So it starts with the hook. Then you show us the world, so we make sure we're in the right world, make the character and conflict clear, and then tell us the stakes and what people are working toward. And you finally leave us with that cliffhanger that gives us the sense of urgency. Not only do we know it's the right flavor for us, but we want to know right now what happens next. And we're dying to hit that button, whether it's buy or it's pre-order. And this is so much fun to do. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with book descriptions, but that's why, when we were planning Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp, we're like, let's have a complete training just on this. Because once you get into it, you're going to have fun with it. Because what we're going to do is look at tons of examples specific to your genre, so you can see how other authors who write what you write capture readers' attention. And it's really one of the best ways to learn how to write your description, your commercial. But we're also going to give you a book description checklist with those writing frames I was talking about, right? Where it's like fill in the blanks. It's like paint by numbers. And you can just experiment and use a lot of different sentence structures and see what works for you. And, there's no reason you should be wasting your creativity on your book description. Use that paint by numbers. Just plug in your content in that frame because it's a commercial. And the more it follows the formula, the more it will grab readers' attention. Commercials follow a specific formula for a reason. It's because it works. They get people's attention, they tell them this is the thing for you and why, and then they give them an urgent reason to hit buy now button. And the more you follow that formula, the more it's a no-brainer for your readers. Which doesn't mean you can't have your book description be unique. Absolutely, you'll choose the language and you'll choose the style that makes yours unique to your book, but you do not need to reinvent the wheel. You do not need to come up with your own formula. Let us keep you covered on that. Because you'll be writing your book description in bootcamp, you're going to get personalized feedback so that we make sure it has maximum impact for your genre. from the right length to the right words. You're going to get hands-on help crafting a description that works. And in this module of the Book Launch Like a Boss Bootcamp, we're going to dive deep into how to write different kinds of book descriptions. You're going to get your book description for Amazon, but we're going to go further than that. We're also going to talk about back of book blurb if you're doing a physical copy, because a huge challenge there is how much space it should take up, right? You'll have come up with your description and you'll love it, and then you go, ooh, for my cover design, it's got to be shorter, it's got to be longer, or whatever it is, and that is a different animal. So we're going to tackle that. We're also going to help you craft a short and sweet book description that distills just the, it's like the flavor concentrate. That's like a little packet of flavor, so that you can blast that all over social media, on your author website, on your newsletter, and give people the shortest version that still shows them the flavor, and be able to use that in a lot of different ways. So we're super excited about that. And you guys, this is just 1 week of bootcamp. This is just 1 week of this program. So what's the rest of it, and what is bootcamp? Well, overall, it's an 8-week coaching program, and it's co-led by yours truly, the most strategic writing coach in the West, and Ella, the superwoman of book marketing, who is able to find you the best resources. She's tried everything, so you don't have to. She's like gone through and tested all the different things you need to market your book, so you can just use what works. And we are having these 8 strategy and action sessions for these 8 weeks. And each one is going to teach you a different skill that you need to be able to do to successfully launch your book. But it's also going to, after it gives you the strategy, give you time and support to implement. This is really going to be a hands-on program about you taking action. So here's a rundown of everything we're doing in the 8-week program. In week 1, you're going to build your email list. That means the technology. That means setting up the platform and having all the back-end tech stuff working, and setting up the front end so you have emails going out and you know what kind of emails you're sending and what should be in them. In week 2, you learn how to connect with other authors so that you can start promoting your book in the smartest way, which is by helping and by giving before you get. And Ella walks you through that. It's just masterful, and it's so simple and so like good feeling. It doesn't feel like you're selling your book so much as you're just making these great connections. In week 3, we go into a book description that sells your book, and you write all those 3 I was talking about: your Amazon description, your back of book blurb, and your short and sweet for social media description. In week 4, we walk you through how to host giveaways to build fans and followers, so that you take that email list and grow it so that you're getting in front of people who are really excited about buying your book. In week 5, we walk you through tweaking your character arc and climax, because you're marketing this book, you're launching it, it's got to live up to the hype. So we really make sure that you have a solid book to deliver to your audience. In week 6, we walk you through how to first chapter like a boss. Yes, we turned that into a verb, first chapter. And again, it's about giving readers exactly what they thought they were getting. They read this fantastic book description and like, oh, I want that. We want to make sure you deliver on that, and you do that by grabbing them in the first chapter. And this also, of course, keeps people reading. You don't just want them to buy your book, you want them to read it and enjoy it, so that in week 7, when you learn how to get Amazon reviews, you have tons of people who are excited to give you reviews. And in week 8, Ella walks you through how to build your launch team so that your book is ready to go out with all of this excitement. You have people helping you get the word out. And they're just fun, smart strategies so that you are delivering your product to eager fans who are so excited. All right, so Bootcamp is kicking off January 11th, and you can find out more, you can sign up, and you can also sign up to chat with us more if you have some more questions over on our website. Ella is putting the link in the comments. So it'll be allwriterswelcome.com/boss, and you can find out exactly what the program looks like for Bootcamp. You can get all the dates. If you are ready, you can join us right now. And if you're like, ooh, that sounds good, but I've got a few more questions, you can sign up to chat with us. and get your questions answered, because we'd love to talk with you. So look for the link in the comments. And all right, that is a lot of information. I think your brains might be full. My brain is empty. Everything just came out of my brain and into yours. So time for a mini break before we do the Q&A. Thank you so much for joining us live on this training. We really hope you got great information out of it. If you did, please like and share. Give some love to the other writers that you know. Help them write a book description that sells, and get the skills, get the commercial writing skills. So we are going to end this live training, and then I will meet you guys in just a few minutes in the Book Launch Like a Boss Facebook group to answer your questions. If you are not yet a member of Book Launch Like a Boss, we'll give you a few minutes. I'm going to take a few minutes, drink some water. And that will give you a chance to get into the Book Launch Like a Boss Facebook group, because you'll have to request access over there. All right. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and happy writing.